Food prices continue to go up, and here to tell us how to keep food prices under control is an expert on the subject, Rhonda from Martha's Table. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Donna.
Hi. So, yeah, it's not getting any better out there.
It is not. I mean, I'm sure we've all felt the pinch. You think you've gone to the grocery store and you've purchased maybe $20, $40 of items, and it's 100, you know, or 80. It's double what you expect. So I've had that sticker shock at the cashier many times, and you know, it's hard to remember in that moment sometimes all the frugal tips that we might know. So it's good to think about it, you know, in advance and plan.
So one of the best kept secrets is beans.
I think it's a favorite go-to. Lentils I love as well. It's a great protein base for a lot of food, but beans are, I think, underrated.
I think they are too. They seem to be something that we associate with Depression days and things like that. Well, hey, folks, we're darn close to that again. So
unfortunately,
let's just dust off that bag of beans. And well, let's talk about that. You can buy beans that are canned or dried, or I guess those are the two choices.
Right.
I prefer dried personally because I think they're far more economical, and it is not a big deal preparing them.
Not at all. Yeah. I mean, rinse the beans. I always wash my beans, and if you buy them dry, soak them overnight. It helps with the process. That makes them, I think they just taste better. There's something about that process that allows them time to absorb moisture, and you just cook them. It's not hard.
Right. And I boil them for 12 minutes. I'm not sure where that number came from. I must have read it somewhere. 12 minutes, drain them, rinse them, then you're ready to roll with them. And they're going to be just the same as they came out of a can.
Yeah.
Here's another question. If you do buy canned, the liquid they're in, do you use it or do you rinse it off? I've never been sure about that.
I always rinse it, no matter what it is. Anything out of a can, I always take the water off and rinse it. Some of the cans and the products coming out now, they say low sodium, but I always get rid of the liquid in it. I hope that it helps reduce the sodium.
Yeah, so, really, because well, we just had somebody here talking about stroke, so that's a good tie-in. That's right. Yes. That reduced sodium. Right. Yeah. Okay, so what are some of the ways you would use beans to substitute for other more expensive things?
Right. Well, it can go into a vegetable soup, you know, cabbage, any kind of vegetable, and it gives you a nice protein. Beans, white beans are a nice go-to for me. It's one of my favorites, but there's a variety of beans. So full of nutrients. They can be full of iron, carbs, good carbs, and fiber, potassium. If you get kinks in your feet or legs, you have beans, potassium, right? So it'll help. So they just do so many things that you may not connect with eating a simple bean. But you know, you can use them for, I have a recipe that it tastes like lasagna. So it's white beans, kale, tomatoes, and cheese. And it's just decadent.
That sounds really good.
So it's affordable, and it's going to please even a fussy eater because it tastes like lasagna. Most people like that. And you can control the amount of cheese, right? It can be a lot or a little, right? But it does add a nice little finishing touch.
And beans can replace a certain amount of meat as well. Like if I make chili, I use half the amount of roast beef that they call for hamburger, and double the amount of kidney beans, and I mash up half of them, and it's the same consistency as meat, and you don't notice that you know you're not getting nearly as much meat. It just saves some money, and it's a lot better for you too. I mean,
absolutely,
really, when you get down to it.
Yeah, and that's the same with this cheesy bake. Mash the beans, not completely. You want some texture, but mush them down a little bit, and it's a nice consistency.
Another one of my go-tos in the summertime is black beans, and I put it on salads.
Yes.
And oh my goodness, that is really good.
Yes.
And it's just a little bit more protein and good stuff that you're getting with a salad that's good for you.
Yeah.
At the best of times,
Absolutely. When you say black beans, I think of Tex-Mex. You know, a spritz of lime on your salad, you know, it just would make it lovely.
And another I like is a rice bowl, and beans being part of that, I mix the black beans in with rice
Yeah.
and corn, and then that
Classic.
opens it up to any number of things you can add
Yeah.
to that, and you've got
Yeah.
a nice
Anything you
fast
have in the
meal.
fridge.
Pretty much.
Right, that's the kind of thing that will help you economize because you're not going to waste anything that you have in the fridge. If you had, I mean, this recipe for the lasagna-like beans calls for kale, but maybe you don't have that, but you can use something similar or put in onions, right? It doesn't have to be. It's these
Right.
beans are forgiving. You can put whatever you have in
And
it. Yeah.
can you replace kale with spinach?
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely. That would be the best
Right.
crossover.
And how about
Yeah.
those dandelion greens? You were telling me about that before. Okay, now did you get brave? Have you tried those dandelion greens?
Oh, I've tried them.
and it really is okay.
I think I said it's an acquired taste.
An acquired taste,
They do have an amount of bitter to them, so I would add a lot of garlic in mine.
Okay.
A lot of garlic for me, and butter won't hurt. But
a little butter,
yeah.
right? Yeah, but you need them as
Yeah.
greens too, like a salad green,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what else is happening at Martha's Table? What are the plans for the summer?
Well, we are expanding. We purchased the property attached to us, so that's really exciting. It's going to allow us to return to indoor service. So our motto is food and friendship, and we've been doing food all along since the pandemic, but we've lost that social element, and this will bring us back to that. So I'm hoping for a launch in July, so we'll have a breakfast and lunch indoors. So that's a really big deal at Martha's, and that's coming soon.
That's a good
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
It just seems that people of low income and loneliness seem to go. One seems to support the other
Yeah.
somehow, and
Yeah.
both are just not good for us at all. So it's the property next. What needs to be done? Did you have to do a lot of renovations, buy more furniture, or what'd you have to do?
Yes, to both. It does require renovations, and we're working on that. And it's well in hand, and furniture has been ordered. We'd had a grant through one of our local foundations, very generous, and we're going to buy tables and chairs. And it's really going to come together, I think, in a nice way that will allow us to phase in different services. So as I mentioned, starting with breakfast and lunch. And it's really important that we get back to dinner because Kingston doesn't have a lot of dinner options, but we're going to add that last because it will change everything that we do and how we do it and the timing. So watch for the return of all three, but starting with breakfast and lunch. Yeah.
So it's nice too for people to be able to eat dinner with somebody, just to have someone sitting across the table that you can carry on a conversation with while you have your meal. And it's such a great service that you guys offer. And I know it's been some tough times, but food prices and all that have got to affect you as much as anybody.
Right. We've always said we're creative. We find sales and buy in bulk and use all those frugal tips that we talk about. We practice those at Martha's, but at a certain point you do max out. And then we know when we have indoor service, we're going to continue takeout and delivery still. So our numbers are going to grow again. So we're expecting another spike moving through July and August and onward. So it does become challenging. So, if you're interested in supporting or your viewers, you can volunteer your time because we're going to be needing more volunteers, and donations are always impactful and needed.
Right. And if you have a graduation coming up or something like that, make Martha's Table a place, instead of gifts, make a donation to Martha's Table or something like that.
Or celebrate your birthday that way.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always good to see you. Have a wonderful summer.
Thank you. You too.
Okay.